I didn't know that's where it hit him. I hit him directly in the knee too.
Okay, if we are live, and I believe we are, so welcome everybody to episode 10 of our All Pro Sports podcast and at night 2 of our very special NFL mock draft edition here as I had Griff Barlow and my cousin Ben Adams last night. Tonight it's just going to be me and Billy McGee with our mock drafts as well as kind of updating a little bit on the sports picture in other leagues as well. But first and foremost, I kind of wanted to give the floor to you first, Billy, to see if you wanted to mention anything before we kind of discuss a little the NFL mock drafts.
There's not really anything I can think of that's like as urgent or like important other than the draft. I mean, since it's tomorrow, like
Yes, certainly it's going to be about 24 hours from now. It's 7:36, so a little over 24 hours from now, we'll see who gets taken in the first round of the draft. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just kind of jump into this. Certainly, we kind of talked quite a bit about the Panthers at number one overall for really kind of taking Bryce Young. Certainly, Griff and I were in agreement about it last night, but certainly strange rumors with kind of Will Levis starting to get some favoritism, but I just shoot it down almost immediately. Levis, I just don't think is going to be going number one. And certainly, as far as you, Billy, when we've talked about with Indianapolis, certainly Indianapolis would most likely stay away from him at number four.
I mean, there's a lot of rumors that they might take him, which I am not a fan of Levis.
No.
So I mean, I prefer in the draft. I mean, obviously the Colts are taking a quarterback, and it can't be Bryce Young because he's going one. But I mean, I'd prefer Stroud or Richardson over Levis easily.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, we were kind of talking as well about how Shane Steichen could almost use like Anthony Richardson kind of the same way as his development in Hurts. I mean, obviously, we'll see kind of how CJ Stroud goes, either if Houston drafts him at number two or if Indianapolis goes at him at number four. And then kind of just really kind of going through, just kind of randomizing here through like the first 10 picks or so. Certainly, Bryce Young is the popular one at number one. And really for Houston, kind of just a number of options. As we said, we had CJ Stroud, Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech also being in that conversation for Houston at number two, and even probably Will Anderson in some mocks. But, as I kind of mentioned, seeing how, Houston with Nick Caserio and certainly Arizona with their GM Monty Austin-Ford, I'm interested to see how those two picks go down, once the draft begins, in 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably think that it'd be Will Anderson to the Texans because it was like very well known, probably not to the liking of the Texans, that they pretty much only liked Bryce Young. Or not like only, but they liked him significantly more than the other quarterbacks. And then, I mean, if they're not going to be able to get him, you might as well take, I mean, I would assume in their mind is the best defensive player in the draft. And they just hired a defensive coach who went to Alabama when he played. So draft an Alabama defender that would fit perfectly in his scheme.
Mm-hmm. I'm certainly thinking if Houston does end up going the defensive route, certainly as far as Davis Mills go, this could essentially be his last year. I heard some promising news from someone I think on Twitter posted that John Mechie III is practicing at workouts right now after basically missing the whole season last year with leukemia. But you certainly have him. You got Damian Pierce, and they also, I think, added Robert Woods to their receiving core as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of use the other picks in their disposal to see how they can build that offense around Mills and then maybe go after one of the bigger quarterback prospects next year. So kind of from Houston, we kind of briefly discussed as well in terms of Arizona and Indianapolis, and probably just maybe just making notes is for the other picks, like 5 through 10. Of course, you have Seattle, Detroit, the Raiders, the Titans. Well, no, strike that. Reading the wrong thing here. So you got Seattle, you got Detroit, Raiders, Falcons, Bears, and Eagles. Kind of seemed like who, like when I sent the mock drafts from you guys yesterday, kind of what kind of really intrigued you for like those 5 or 6 picks from picks 5 through 10 of seeing like who could probably target who in those picks.
I would like what intrigues me is like I don't know uh how far would Jalen Carter fall
Well, right.
in the
Mhm,
draft. So like I would assume he'd go somewhere there. I think
mhm,
I'll have to look at it at some of these mocks here where some of these guys have him going, but yeah, I think the consensus for a lot of these guys is like 5 or 6 is where
mhm,
he'd go, and then I see one where he's at 9 and one where he's at 3. So it's
mhm.
like it's. I mean, I'd assume some teams could view him as like the best player in the draft, but some of the stuff that's been going on with him recently he may fall a little bit. I wouldn't imagine he'd fall past 9 though, but I don't.
Mm-mm.
I think the earliest he'd go would probably be 5 if I
Yeah.
had to guess. But that's probably the thing to would be my thing to watch from 5 to 10 would be where does
Mhm.
Jalen Carter go? Because
Right.
I think the Texans, if they go defender, it's gonna be one of the edge rushers, whether it be Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson. Probably I would guess Will Anderson. And then the Cardinals, I don't know what they'll do, but I know that Kyler Murray is apparently lobbying for them to take Paris Johnson Jr.,
Yeah. Mhm.
which he's done that in the past with the tackle, and they've ignored him every single time. So,
Right. Mhm.
and it seemed the ones that have been reported that he lobbied them on, he would have like been right on, or not even just like tackles, just linemen in general. Like he's like, I saw something where he wanted Tristan Wirfs in that
Mhm.
class, and
Right.
they passed on him, and that would have been a great pick for them. I think he
Right.
wanted Creed Humphrey last year, and they
Mhm.
passed on Creed Humphrey, and Creed Humphrey looked amazing last year.
Mhm.
So I mean, if he's lobbying for these guys, I mean, he has a history of wanting a lineman. He picks him out, like picks a lineman, tells them it's like, hey, I want this guy to be on the line in front of me. All of them have been good so far. So maybe they finally listen to him. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just go defense. But
It's
so
gonna
that's
be
why I think they'd. I don't know if they'd take uh, Carter. I think
yeah.
they'd if they do go defense. I think they'd go the edge rusher that I would assume they go the edge rusher that Houston doesn't
Right.
because they did
Tyree
just lose
Wilson.
J.J. Watt.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, I mean, J.J. Watt could play pretty much anywhere on the line, though. So it's not like it's kind of hard to replace someone like that, even though he wasn't quite in his prime anymore, but he could still
Right.
play just about everything.
Mhm. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, I know people are probably thinking that Arizona might even trade that number 3 pick to gain more draft capital, but it will be interesting to see how um, they use that one. I'm kind of really interested to see like how um, kind of like the other guys are going to go. I've been really hearing about with that Peter Skoronsky from Northwestern. People are probably thinking Chicago is going to land him at 9, or some mocks I think are even targeting for Oakland to um, maybe get him at 7 as well. But kind of just like maybe drifted out of the top 10 and kind of like one of those really big recent headlines. What were your thoughts about that whole um, Aaron Rodgers trade to the Jets, and certainly obviously swapping draft picks at 15 and 13, but also the remaining draft capital the Jets gave the Packers? I basically said Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson were fools in my podcast yesterday, giving up that much capital, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, if they want to compete, they're trying to win a Super Bowl, go get your quarterback. And it realistically is at most like pretty much just a first and a second round pick. And it could not even be a first because if
Mhm.
Rodgers gets hurt next year, they keep that first and it's just a second. Because
Right.
I believe it was the pick swap this year, second rounder this year, and then the second next year that could be a first if he plays 65% of snaps. And I think there was a couple day 3 picks somewhere because I think the Jets got a day 3, like a 5th rounder or something with Rodgers. So it's not like a ton. At least I think what's huge for them is keeping a first rounder this year to win, like to get a piece that can help them win now. Because if Rodgers takes them to the playoffs, they're aiming like they want a Super Bowl. That's why they went and got Rodgers. So if Rodgers can take them into the playoffs, I'm sure they'd much rather have that than a first-round pick next year.
Yeah, I'm just kind of really seeing, if Aaron Rodgers, as you just kind of mentioned, either if he gets hurt or if he really just like stinks up the joint, my feeling about just, with it is just, as I kind of mentioned, just knowing what we're discussing, with Caleb Williams and Drake May and probably Bo Nix and some of the other guys coming out next year, they could certainly bypass on that if, the Jets struggle. I mean, I don't think they're going to not have 5 or 6 wins, but if just they don't reach the postseason, I mean, that just becomes a bigger issue for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers to handle. And I just don't know how much Rodgers is invested so far in the Jets. I kind of watched a little bit of the presser when he was there, but just I don't know what to really think about that situation.
I mean, I think that it's something like when you get to the year, if you start the year really slow, if it's a bad start to the year, if they're 1-5 or 1-6, you have to have the conversation. It's should we just sit him and keep that first round pick? Because if you're 1-6, that or even 1-7, that's less than 50% of the season. I doubt they'll be that bad. But if you're halfway into the year and it's looking bad for you, you might as well at that point, right? Why would you not?
Yeah.
Why would you try and risk? Why would you keep him in there to maybe try and win out and go 9-8 and get in as the 7 seed and then lose in the first round when you could just keep your first round pick?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see kind of how both teams kind of go at it. Certainly we were kind of mentioning with this about it yesterday. I think Griff was kind of saying how funny this was when I was going through the picks. I think, I was talking about, I think they had Zay Flowers or also that Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State for them to land him. We kind of made the joke if Green Bay goes after a receiving threat, just it would be the perfect way to just kind of say to Rodgers, we didn't, supply you with a first round receiver, and now we're going to probably go around Jordan Love with the guys we already have with Romeo Dobbs, Watson, and add another receiving threat on top of it. Just kind of said, the biggest, middle finger to Rodgers after basically just casting him out to New York.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else they pick. There's nothing else that they need urgently other than receiver or a tight end, which either one would be fine. So I don't know why they wouldn't go for that. I mean, obviously it's they going into the draft, it's looked like that the past 3 years. It's why would you not just take a receiver? That's what you need. They haven't done it yet, so who knows?
So kind of just seeing, probably, some of the other big name guys, here in the first round, I've just kind of really noticed a lot of, certainly I'm interested to see kind of how Georgia does in this first round, really obviously outside of Jalen Carter and, Broderick Jones. I thought there was one other guy I noticed. Nolan Smith, right? Yeah. Where do you think Nolan Smith might go? I
see that's a weird one because I think he it could be such a wide range because it just depends on how teams will value his athletic traits, because he didn't have the best production, but he was very clearly the leader of the defense at Georgia, and he is a freak athlete. He probably had the best combine of any edge rusher this year. And looking at this mock draft, that I see him as high as 10 and as low as 30. So that it's really he could go anywhere, which funny enough, 10 and 30, that's the same team, but I think that actually the Eagles would probably be a great fit for him, though,
I
if he
agree.
could go to
Yeah.
the Eagles. Yeah,
Shore up that
but I mean,
defense.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a bunch of teams that he could fit really well anywhere. I mean, yeah, like the Eagles would be great because look at that. I mean, I think he could be very similar to a. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Oh my goodness. Who did
On,
they? Who's their edge rusher that's like really good?
on the Eagles or
Yeah, on the Eagles. Why am I blanking on his name? Cardinals drafted Reddick, Hassan
Reddick.
Reddick. He could be like
That's
Reddick. He's not like
yeah.
amazing against the run, but he's a freak athlete that is extremely fast, has a lot of bend, has long arms. Like he's not a D end. He's like you don't want him to put his hand in the dirt and line up in front of the tackle. You want him to 2-point stance, get the running start into there, get around him. I mean, that's what he is. He could do that.
Certainly
He
coming off.
ran up like a 4.39 or something like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, for a defensive lineman, and kind of just going on with this on Philadelphia, knowing you're basically retaining 4 guys who had 10 or more sacks last year for the Eagles, even though they didn't really get much pressure on Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I mean, Nolan Smith can just be another added dimension on that defense for them to use this year.
Also, what other better place would be? He'd be going there with Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis. He knows those guys already.
Yeah.
In the front 7 with them again. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the best place for him to go to. I think New England would be a really good spot for him to go to too. I don't know if they'd take someone. I mean, you never know with Belichick. Belichick loves like drafting like defensive line guys in the front 7 in the first round. He loves to do that. I mean, so that I don't know what it's hard to predict a Patriots first round pick because it's Bill Belichick and he'll do whatever he wants to do. But I think that'd be a great fit for Nolan Smith too.
Mm-hmm. I kind of just probably diverting away from the first round as well. Probably seeing on the Georgia thing, I noticed. I think in one of the 7-round mock drafts for one of the CBS Sports guys, I think one of them had the Giants in the 2nd round, taking that Kelly Ringo from your secondary.
Ringo. Yeah, I want the Colts to take him because we need a corner, and he fits Gus Bradley's cover 3 scheme perfect. He's a really big, strong, fast, physical corner. So I think he'll go early day 2. I don't know. I don't think he'll go day 1, but early day 2.
No, but
he's
certainly
a freak athlete.
Yeah, I'm really kind of excited to see how Georgia does so well here, and then kind of just maybe just kind of scrolling through here, maybe just kind of just updating on probably who they're talking about for my Giants pick at number 25 here in the first round. Kind of just this has just been so open of what I've been seeing for the mock draft. Some people are thinking they're going to take that Jordan Addison from USC. They also have Osiris Torrance, that offensive lineman from Florida, and Steve Avila from TCU. And I also kind of noticed like early on they were having like that John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota. I remember, but
he's good. I like John Michael Schmitz a lot.
Yeah, he's no longer on the Giants though at 25. I don't know if he either dropped out of the first round or if he is.
I don't know if he's mocked to go in the first round very much.
No,
because I don't know how many. I mean, it's not very common you see a center go in the first round.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't know why it's not. I mean, it's a pretty important position, but he's good. I like him. But, I mean, I think the Giants need to go receiver.
Sure.
Because I think I was looking through here. I even see they're mocked Jacorian Bennett from Maryland, that corner.
Yeah.
I mean, the Giants need corners too, right?
They do.
Yeah, pretty big need. Yeah, I mean, if you don't go receiver or corner, then I mean, I don't know what you'd go with there. I think that's probably the ideal decision is to go one of those 2 positions.
Yeah, I kind of was hoping that they would even strengthen their interior line. I mean, obviously, I know that Andrew Thomas and Neal have been, I'd say, still working on it. But if you grab that Osiris Torrance, I think from Florida, knowing just how good Florida's rushing attack was last year, I think that could just really be a valuable piece. I don't know too much about Steve Avila. I got to do a little research on him probably, but I'm just kind of interested to see what Shane targets there at 25 tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be one of those 3 positions: receiver, corner, interior O-line. If it's something else, I'd be shocked.
I would be too. Mhm. Yeah, probably just kind of still looking at the mock drafts as well, and probably seeing this. We were kind of mentioning about this when I send you like my mock draft list of quarterbacks. Some people are probably thinking that Hendon Hooker, even if he like sits, some people are seeing like he could be a late pick, either like from pick 20 or whatever. I just saw like the Buccaneers probably mocked him at 19. I've seen some people thinking like Minnesota might take him
I can see Minnesota because
23.
Minnesota's been wanting to get a young quarterback for a while, just
Right.
to sit behind
Mhm.
Kirk for like a year or two. They tried with Kellen Mond in the third round, and they cut him a year later.
Yeah.
I mean, there's reports that they're trying to trade up to 3 to do that with Anthony Richardson, which I don't know what they have to trade. They don't have many picks. They're pretty
Right.
far back.
Mhm.
They don't really have players that they could trade because they're not going to trade like their young star. But they're not going to trade like a Justin Jefferson or something. You don't want to trade like a key piece just to go get a backup quarterback for a couple of years. But
Mhm.
I mean, Hendon Hooker, I've seen that. Hendon Hooker, I don't think he's a first round pick. He shouldn't be. But if someone is going to take him at the top of the second, you might as well trade up and take him at the bottom of the first. So you get that extra year. But even then, he's going to be 30 for that extra year on the contract then, because he's going to be 25 when
Right.
he's 25 now. He'll turn 26 during the season, I'm pretty sure, or it might be. I'm not exactly sure when his birthday is, but he will be 26 pretty soon.
Yeah. Mhm.
Let's see when his birthday is, so I
Yeah.
can get the exact one. Oh, okay. So he'll be 26, like in the playoffs next year.
Okay.
Which, if you're going to draft a guy in the first round, that means that he's going to be 30 on the last year of his rookie contract if you pick up
Right.
the option.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, if you can, if it works, who cares how
Right.
old he is at that?
Mhm.
But like, I don't think it will work
No.
because he's just not like the style of offense that they ran at Tennessee and how he played the game is not like a direct translation to the NFL.
Right.
I mean, maybe it could work give it a few years,
Mhm.
but are you wanting to take that risk? Like, especially if you're a team at the bottom of the first round that just made the playoffs.
Mhm.
So
Probably just kind of reminds me a little bit. I know this is kind of just I know so much different, but I remember just kind of like how people kind of consider like a bust, like when Andre Ware was drafted by the Lions, like in the early '90s, and they also I think there was another Houston um, quarterback as well. I think Klangler was his name when he was drafted by the Bengals, like in '91 or '92. I mean, kind of like similar offenses, though. Like Houston ran like that run and shoot. I wouldn't say like Tennessee ran the same thing, but I mean they really kind of
Tennessee's
thrive like
was
on the
their
long
passing game was very vertical and
ball.
relying on speed and the sidelines,
Mhm.
which it's a lot easier to prevent a quarterback from throwing to the sidelines than it is to prevent him from throwing to the middle. And that's
Right.
pretty much all Hendon Hooker did.
Yeah.
That and he doesn't move. Like if you
No.
go watch a Tennessee game, he's in shotgun, takes a snap,
Mhm.
one step drop, and stands there.
Yeah.
He
Mhm.
doesn't move at all. He
Mhm.
gets the ball and throws it. That's all he does.
Mhm. Well, it will be interesting to see kind of what happens with him if he is indeed going to be a second round pick, whoever decides to take him later. And then probably just kind of, still just kind of searching through, kind of like any other big names kind of really stood out. I'm kind of interested to see kind of like who's going to be kind of like that first tight end off the board. People were kind of thinking Michael Mayer was going to be the first guy, but now Dalton Kincaid from Utah is starting to get a whole lot of um, respect as well. I think I saw him either going to Buffalo or Dallas. I think I'm trying to see like who else
I see
probably.
him on both of here listed there. Mike and then Michael Mayer to the Bengals is pretty common in like a mock
Just,
draft. I see Dalton Kincaid to the Lions at 18 in one of these. I would not expect that high. Well, then
right,
this one also has Michael Mayer to the Packers at 13,
right. Hmm.
which I could see the Packers going tight end. I think it'd be Michael Mayer if they did, so I think that would
Yeah.
make sense. But I would be curious, where was that at? I forgot who I was just. Oh yeah, I'm curious where Bijan Robinson is going to go.
I am too. I know
because
people are.
like running backs could go anywhere. Like
Yeah,
it just depends on how they view him.
right.
Like people are saying he's like the best running back prospect since like Saquon, and I just don't see it like that. People are calling him
I
like an
don't either.
elite running back prospect. I think he's a good running back prospect. I think he's
Right.
about on par of what Brees Hall was last year, which I liked Brees Hall a lot last year.
I did too.
So I don't think that's disrespectful to say that. I don't think he's this transcendent talent that's like, oh, you have to take him high.
Right. Yeah, I'm seeing
I think he
Bijan.
helps a rushing attack almost immediately. I think that's why I'd like to see him on the Chargers because they need a runner. Because Austin
They
Eckler's
do.
good, but he's a pass catcher more than
I'm
anything at running back.
kind of seeing Austin Eckler's future right now too. I've been kind of hearing like he's in contract negotiations, and the Chargers really aren't, billing him. I guess what he wants, but
Well, they can't like rely on him to run the ball when they need to ice the game because he's more of a receiving back. He's not like a true like runner.
right. Still kind of just seeing though. Um, for some of the other guys, I don't. It's kind of funny. People are thinking like Joey Porter Jr. is going to go to Pittsburgh just like his dad. I'd like to
That'd
see
be
him
cool.
probably
I'd like that.
go. I'd like to see him probably go somewhere else. I think Washington probably has him mocked at 16. Um, I think Pittsburgh obviously is like a popular pick, as I kind of mentioned. I was trying to see if he's gonna go anywhere else. No, I think the Chargers actually were mocked him at 21, but I think he's gonna go within the top 20. I don't think he's gonna drop
Yeah, there's a
20.
lot of good corners in this draft.
There are, yeah. Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Brian Branch too. I've
I'm
probably
trying
heard
to
the
see how many are mocked in a lot of these because there's a bunch of like second round, like day two guys that are like really good too. Of
Mhm,
course, Deontay Banks, he's a freak athlete.
mhm.
And then there's, of course, in day two, like Cam Smith, Keely Ringo.
Mhm.
There's some really good corners here. Really deep class at corner.
Yeah. I was going to say, kind of sticking back to Georgia, I know I kind of haven't really seen his name, but I know like he's probably um, going to be off the board. Who do you think Darnell Washington is going to be taken by? I saw the other day, I think the Dolphins were getting him at number 51. I don't know if, he would be a replacement like for Gesicki because Gesicki's now gone to New England, but I just,
Well, he'd do a different role than Gesicki. He's a very different player. Like obviously he's fast for his size. He's not necessarily like the most nimble guy. Like he doesn't move extremely well, but he's a really good blocker, good contested catcher. He has pretty good top end speed for someone as big as he is. I would be surprised if we went day one. I'd guess early to mid second round. I don't know exactly where at though. It just really depends on what teams are going to value taking a guy like him that high.
will be interesting to see kind of how these teams kind of figure it out. I'm just kind of so excited. I mean, I was saying to both Griff and Ben last night, like once tonight and tomorrow night go down, I mean, I'm just gonna be sitting downstairs in front of the TV with my
Yeah.
computer, and just I'm gonna probably start writing the mock drafts. Well, not the drafts, but kind of like the draft notes that I gave you guys last year. I'm probably gonna send those out to you by next week, hopefully. But probably just before we maybe just talk a little bit about just catching up in some of the other sports leagues. Was there kind of any other players on those mock drafts that kind of intrigued you from the first round, or
I saw Keon White somewhere on I forgot
yeah,
where that he was mocked to go, but I
he dropped a lot. I remember seeing him like as like an early like top 10 pick, but now he's like I see like the Saints at 29 for him.
yeah, I believe he had a like pretty solid like combine performance and because I think he was a lot higher like during the season or like before the season or during the season and he kind of fell a little bit, but I think he's probably either going to be the last edge rusher taken in the first round or the first one taken in the second round or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think he'd be a pretty good pick, like for someone down there.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
And Kalijah Cansey too. He's a freak athlete at D tackle. Doesn't exactly play the run very well because he's kind of small, but he's like a freak athlete.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to try and find what some of his stuff was for his measurables. Yeah, he's 6'1", 281 at D tackle and ran a 4.67 40.
That's pretty good.
A 4.67 at D tackle is crazy.
And that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. He's just not exactly moving guys and getting back into the backfield in the run game. He's a good pass rusher, D tackle, not really. Yeah. He's not exactly great in the run game.
Still looks kind of. Probably just kind of not seeing a whole lot remaining probably here on the first round here, but certainly as I kind of mentioned, I think Griff and the guys were saying like once the draft like starts tomorrow, he was saying like if you want to participate, kind of using like that group me page that I set up. He said like he'll probably be barking through the phone and his text after the Panthers select number one. He obviously we were saying it's going to be Bryce Young, and I just think it's going to be him. But I kind of wanted to maybe just probably switch gears here and maybe probably just switch into a little bit of baseball right now. How are your Braves doing? I know they're still probably first.
We're currently down 3-0 to the Marlins, so 3 solo shots. So that's not good.
Yeah, Mets lost.
But, I mean, we destroyed them yesterday, or not yet. 2 days ago is when we destroyed them, and then we beat them by like 4 yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer Strider took a perfect game through 6 and a no hitter through 7 on Monday. So
yeah, Mets lost
he
5
really good
against Washington yesterday. So Mets are still kind of trying to figure themselves out early. I was surprised though, and just obviously I know that this is just kind of so you knew it was coming, but just the Athletics are just knowing that news came out about them moving to Vegas. I'm like, where are you going to build a stadium in Vegas for?
I mean, they have the property to build it there now, but
no, it's just man.
I just feel bad for the Oakland fans because they don't deserve that. The team never tried anything. Like they just let players leave there. They give them away. They don't the owner doesn't want to pay them. Like if you're gonna buy land in Vegas, if you want buy your stay in Oakland.
I know.
Like if you actually try to build a team, those fans will show up.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So go out, build you a stadium. It doesn't have to be in Oakland. You can just put you can still be the Oakland A's and just have it slightly outside. Like the 49ers aren't even in San Francisco anymore.
Yeah, Santa Clara. So right.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously it'd be nice to keep it in the city of Oakland, but buy land there, build a new stadium there. I get the city's not exactly trying to help pay for it, but why should they? They shouldn't. You're a billionaire owner. You can pay for your own stadium. You're making all the money off of it.
Just reminds me of
there.
Just reminds me of cheap ass Charlie Finley when Finley was there, and he was probably as cheap of owners as they were back in the 60s and 70s. Kind of just running through those standings really quick. I'll tell you, I was just seeing this right now. The National League West. This is bizarre. The Dodgers
I believe the Diamondbacks are leading, right?
Dodgers are 13-11 right now. Diamondbacks are 14-12, and the Padres are 12-13 for the top 3 teams there. That's a weird.
What's crazy is I believe if you look at top 3 record-wise across the league, I think the Pirates are up there.
I know. Pirates are 16-8. Brewers 16-9.
They went on a 7-game win streak or something like that. I think they might still be on a win streak right now.
I think so. They've won.
They're good. I like the Pirates. They're a good team. I like they're fun. It sucks that Cruz got hurt.
Yeah, I was kind of seeing, obviously seeing like how um the Cardinals obviously are kind of struggling at 9-15. I know Mac's probably not too happy about that, being the Cardinals fan he is, but I'm kind of hoping the Cubs can kind of sneak in. Was surprised to see like how many guys like on the Cubs are, because I was surprised like seeing like Dansby Swanson was on Chicago. I didn't even realize that Swanson was on um Chicago's
Yeah, they gave
roster.
him $177 million.
Wow.
Yeah, I want the Braves to get healthy. Since then, I mean, former Brave Dansby Swanson, but the Braves need to get healthy. We finally got Colin McHugh back. He was on IL. We got him back. We haven't had Raisel Iglesias all year. We haven't had our closer all year. We lost our starting center fielder, reigning Rookie of the Year, within a week. He's still not back yet.
That's Michael Harris.
We
Right?
lost, Michael Harris. So he's in AAA right now. He's on his rehab assignment. We lost Freed for like a week and a half. He got hurt his first start. It may have been 2 weeks with him, honestly. And then Kyle Wright was hurt to start the year, so he missed his first start. Darno has a concussion right now. It's a very injured team. Orlando Arcia, who was on fire to start the year, he was amazing. He got a microfracture, one of the two, like minor kinds of fractures. He should be back soon, though. They are like very banged up right now, and they're still leading the NL East.
Yeah, Mets are kind of in that same boat right now. I was kind of just trying to remember who that one guy was that, not Alvarez, but it was the guy Narvaez. I think their catcher. He's hurt, and obviously, I don't know the timetable for Verlander. With him coming back, I know he said like he's trying to come back like in 2 months, but it's like the Mets only have like 3 starting pitchers essentially, knowing how banged up their starting pitching staff is right now. So it's kind of a bit of a rough go for us to try and get some consistency.
You don't have Scherzer right now for other reasons.
Right. Yeah. Kind of just looking at some of the standings in the AL West. I was surprised how the Rangers got off to that hot start, even though DeGrom got bombed in his first start. I saw how
he gave up a decent amount of runs his first start, and then I think his second start he gave up a decent amount too. Yeah. But he's been striking them out still, so he's still really good.
Right. But
Royals jumped on him that first game.
Yeah, Rangers are leading the AL West at 14-10. Houston's 13-11. The Angels are 12-12, and the Mariners just right behind at 11-12. And the AL East is for kind of nice little competitive start. Obviously, the Rays at 20.
Are they still all above 500, or the Red Sox drop below?
I think Red Sox are at 500. They're 13-13 right now. Yeah, Yankees at 14-11. Toronto and Baltimore have 16 wins, even though Blue Jays are 16-9. The Orioles are 16-8. But just it's time to bury the Yankees as far as I'm concerned. I mean, just if I don't care. It's like if they make the postseason, if 4 teams come out of that division, but it's finally time for that division to become competitive once again and just have the Yankees just be beaten up for once.
Yeah, the Rays have been amazing so far. I saw something where the collectively as a team for position players, the Braves and the Mets are tied for second with WAR at 4.2 or 4 point something. And the Rays position players have a combined 9.1 WAR already.
Almost double.
That is insane.
That's crazy.
There's no way they can keep up that for an entire year.
No way.
But you can't keep that pace for an entire year. That's crazy. Yeah. I'm not doubting that they won't finish first for position player WAR, but keeping that pace would be just unheard of.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see kind of how, as I mentioned, for the AL East, and certainly, just probably tuning in, probably in a couple of months once the kind of playoff structure finally kind of gets through, because we're only 27 games in, still not a quarter of the way through the season as of just yet. Probably wrapping some things up as well here. We'll probably just, maybe stick around maybe until about the 45-minute mark. We're about 40 minutes in here before it. But um, have you kind of tuned into any of the NBA playoffs or just kind
A
of been
little bit, not like too much, but
sure?
I mean, just a little bit. And then, I mean, obviously the Kawhi news with him getting hurt is,
Yeah.
or not getting injured again. Like, I'm not hurt, but injured since it's the torn meniscus because he was battling like minor injuries and stuff, obviously missing games here and there. But that torn meniscus really just kills the Clippers' chances.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's unfortunate for them. Jimmy Butler's been going off too.
I know.
He is just different in the playoffs. It's I don't know
He's
any other way to describe it than just different.
I'd love to see, obviously the Knicks are, kind of have a 3-1 series lead on Cleveland right now. And, certainly if Miami takes care of their business, they're up 3-1 as well on Giannis and the Bucks. If that turns out to be the case, I think the last time the Knicks and the Heat matched up in the playoffs, I think that was like one of Patrick Ewing's final years. I think they matched in '99, I think, during that strike year in the NBA. I don't know how many games were in the regular season, but I think the Knicks were like an 8 seed entering that playoffs, and I think they played them in the Eastern Conference Finals, but then lost to San Antonio in the NBA Finals that year there in '99.
Yeah, I'm just the matchups have been exciting so far. I haven't watched too much of them, but what I have seen has been fun to watch. So I'm seeing what games we have tonight. The Knicks are up 10 right now. The Grizzlies are up 10 on the Lakers in the second quarter. Then we got the Heat in the Bucks for game 5, and then Warriors Kings for game 5, which that series is tied at 2.
Sacramento's been incredible.
I want to win a series so bad.
I do too. I mean, just seeing De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis right now on that.
Oh my goodness! The Warriors are 11-30 on the road this year.
That was insane. When I saw that, I was like, "How can you
that means they have 38 losses and 30 of them are on the road."
That's wow. That is,
and I believe they're on the road tonight.
Right, I know, but just my goodness,
that is crazy to lose 30 games on the road. That means that that's a great home record, but just to pair it with an even worse, I mean, I wouldn't say it's even worse because you have more wins away than you have losses at home. But anytime that you're expected to be better at home, to go I don't know what the math would be exactly. It's not telling me their home record, but to only have 8 home losses. And then you split that, you're like, oh, I expect this team, we're going to be at least 500 on the road. But you're 11-30. That is crazy. I didn't know they were that bad on the road.
No. Just
you'd expect, the Heat. They have the same record as the Warriors, but they went 17-24 on the road, which is that's not good, but that's not even that's still 6 more wins than the Warriors have on the road.
Here, I was just going to say, here's a little blast from the past statistic. They say in the last 30 years, they say that there's only two teams that have made the playoffs having won less than 30% of their road games. That was Atlanta back in 2007 and 2008, and the Warriors in 2006 and 2007. Both of them were 12 and 29.
I believe Warriors, or We Believe, or whatever it was.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to remember, what was the name of those Warriors? Was it We Believe or I Believe or something?
Yeah.
We Believe Warriors, I think.
Right.
Yeah, was that year?
Maybe. You're probably right.
I believe it was.
Let's see.
I'm trying to remember who was on those teams. They had who was on those teams? Hold on.
Yeah, Don Nelson was the coach for.
I'm not blanking on the person. I'm trying to think of who was there. What?
Who's on their roster? Come on. Yeah, Baron Davis, Al Harrington.
I'm trying to think of who their big was.
Matt Barnes, Jason Richardson. There's kind of a lot of. Had a guy named Andrus Biedrins,
That might be
Bied.
who I'm thinking of because that's that I
Yeah,
do know who that is.
yeah,
Is Steven Jackson there?
yeah. I think I did see his name. Yeah, I did see him.
Jason Richardson? Wow.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, that's an unlikely team to make the
No,
playoffs just looking at that.
no, yeah. Hmm. I was going to say probably just as we were probably just wrapping this up, we probably just hit the 45-minute mark, but probably just wrapping this up as well. We kind of were seeing this as well. Just I have to probably also extend my congratulations to UConn winning their fifth national championship in March Madness. It was incredible to see just how that March Madness went down. Florida Atlantic making it all the way to the Final Four. I was pulling for them so hard when they lost on that buzzer beater against San Diego State. I could have thought that they would have given UConn a better run, but seeing Florida Atlantic going as far as they did and Charlotte winning the CBI as they did when they took down, I think, Northern Kentucky, I think it was, in the CBI final. I'm just really looking forward to seeing how both those schools compete, especially when they make the move to the American Athletic officially on July 1st. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how they can compete in that conference next year.
And then LSU when the women's won too over
Right.
Iowa, which
Iowa.
that was an
That was
interesting game.
fantastic. I
Kind
know.
of pulled away late,
You're right. Yeah.
but yeah.
Caitlin Clark and those guys are going to be pretty fun to watch, hopefully, once the
And then Angel Reese is coming back next year too for LSU,
Yeah.
so they might repeat.
That's true.
Because I know South Carolina went undefeated in the regular season. Their main player, I believe, what was her name? I don't want to get this wrong. I think I know what it is. I'm double checking because I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah, Aliyah Boston. That's who it is. She's
Yeah.
in the WNBA now. She got drafted number 1 overall. So
Wow. Okay.
so they lost their main person, their number 1, but it's South Carolina. They're like one of the best women's programs. They're just gonna keep bringing in some of the best. They're gonna be good every year.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's probably going to maybe just start to wrap this up here for our broadcast tonight. Certainly, I'm really looking forward, as my co-hosts are, for the NFL draft tomorrow night. But if you would like to have the last word, Billy, before we head out tonight, I'll hand it to you.
Can't really think of anything to end it on.
All right. Well, sir. Well, certainly we'd like to thank our guests for joining us here tonight, though. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the NFL draft tomorrow, about 24 hours from now. Certainly I'll be in concert with my co-hosts, and certainly, as I mentioned, I'll be sending those draft grades to you guys as soon as we can. But, this is Alex Kristen, Billy McGee signing off here on night 2 and episode 10 of our All-Pro Sports podcast, and we hope everybody has a great night and enjoys the NFL draft over the next 3 days. Have a good night, everybody.